Cancel culture was never about progress. It was about power. Who got to speak? Who didn't? All in the name of feelings. It wasn't about building a better world. It was about destroying people to feel morally superior. The difference is no one is trying to erase them. No one's showing up to their homes or threatening their families. They're just losing ratings, losing influence, and losing relevance. That is not cancellation, that is consequence. Cancel culture wasn't supposed to be a boomerang, but it is. They threw it for years, and now it's coming back around. Welcome to Stay in the Fray podcast. I'm your host, Ryan. This is where headlines get hit hard, hypocrisy gets shredded, and the absurd are laughed at. If you want comfort, this isn't your place. If you want blunt and unfiltered, I'm your guy. Join me in the fray.
All you gotta do is just listen up.
Hey guys, welcome back. Anybody that knows me knows that I absolutely despise, I should say past tense, cancel culture. I'm of the mindset of, who do you think you are? All these people that thought that they were better than others, that they had a right to judge what other people said, that they were offended. Did you ever notice how America suddenly decided that being offended was like a new national sport? Usually American football is our national sport, but for a few years, it wasn't really about touchdowns. It was about takedowns. Certain people didn't have time to watch football anymore. They were too busy scanning social media, waiting for the next celebrity, comedian, or random 15-year-old neighbor down the street to say something slightly off just so they could light the torches and start the parade. They called it accountability. It wasn't. It was entertainment to them, outrage for sport. It was the moral Olympics for people with too much Wi-Fi and not enough purpose to their lives. A way to feel righteous without ever doing anything real. I'm telling you, this country has cancel culture fatigue now. Now the left is so desperate, they're trying to claim it's affecting them. The irony. This is Stay in the Fray podcast. It is October the 8th, 2025. Let's roll. So back in the late 2010s and early 2020s, we hit what I call the age of emotional fragility. The big one was even sitcoms from the 90s. When I enjoyed a sitcom in high school, were being treated like hate crimes. Friends, you argue with me all you want, but arguably the best comedy sitcom of all time, that was labeled problematic. Even Aniston herself caved and succumbed to it and said, many of the jokes in the show would not be acceptable now. But then you've got other classics like The Office, canceled on Twitter every other week. Even Seinfeld, some other people would say that's the greatest sitcom of all time. Even that got called insensitive. These are shows that literally built the sense of humor of an entire generation. They're fantastic. And while these people were ripping apart the reruns, nobody said a damn thing about other shows like, I don't know, The Man Show. In case you forgot, that's Jimmy Kimmel's original show. Beer chugging, you get nothing wrong with that. Women in bikinis jumping on trampolines and skits that would make today's HR departments burst into flames. But Kimmel's all right. We're not going to get on him about that show because hypocrisy always has a publicist. That's how cancel culture worked. It wasn't about what you said. It was who said it. If you were in the right club, you got a pass. If not, one bad joke, one tweet from 2009, and suddenly your entire life was an obituary written by people you'd never met. Roseanne Barr made a joke that didn't land, fired overnight. No suspension, no grace period, gone. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel actually dressed in blackface. I should say black body. I mean, it was the entire upper body doing his Karl Malone impression. Half of Hollywood said it was just satire. You could lose your job for liking a post on social media. There was a college student who got attacked online because she wore a kimono to a cultural festival. She liked the design. They called her racist. Someone else wore a sombrero, of course, on Cinco de Mayo, which happens. Fuck you, racist. A kid dressed in Native American gear to support the Kansas City Chiefs, racist. 9-year-old kid. More on that in a moment. Because God forbid a kid supports his team without passing a cultural sensitivity seminar first. And that's the insanity of it. You could accidentally get canceled. You didn't even have to do something wrong. All you had to do was exist while someone else was having a bad day and felt like virtue signaling would make them feel better about themselves. People were canceled for jokes, opinions, costumes, emojis, hairstyles, memes, facial expressions even. One woman lost her job for posing with a peace sign in front of a Trump sign. Someone else got banned for saying men can't get pregnant. Spoiler alert, that's actual biology, not hate speech. The same mob that destroyed these people's lives was patting itself on the back, pretending it was fighting oppression, while acting like a digital KGB with pronouns in the bio. Cancel culture was never about progress, it was about power. Who got to speak, who didn't, all in the name of feelings. It wasn't about building a better world, it was about destroying people to feel morally superior. The irony is that the people screaming the loudest about fascism were the ones demanding public loyalty oaths before you could even post a joke. Because here is the truth. Cancel culture didn't just ruin comedy or TV or free speech. It ruined the fun of being fucking human. It made everybody paranoid. You couldn't even talk without wondering who was recording, screenshotting, or waiting to drag you. And for what? Fake moral points handed out between them in their echo chambers? That's where it all began, with a lie dressed up as justice. And the hangover from that lie is what we're living through right now. So here's where it gets good. The same people who built cancel culture are suddenly crying that they're the victims of it. The same crowd that spent years digging through people's tweets, destroying comedians, and demanding accountability now wants sympathy because someone finally called them out. You got late night talk show hosts, that's kind of the big one right now, the ones who spent half a decade turning political hit pieces into bedtime comedy. They're whining about being canceled. Well, let's talk about it. No, Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert were not canceled. They spewed misinformed false rhetoric over and over again and were reprimanded by their bosses. ABC caved, of course, and brought Kimmel back. I guess they like airing shows with no audience. But Kimmel and Colbert, they don't understand that America isn't watching them anymore. And not because of censorship, because the act got stale. Every night, it's the same monologue. Orange man bad, conservatives are evil. The audience claps like trained seals, all 30 of them. Nobody's laughing, except for the seals. It's political therapy for people who cannot let go what began in 2016. Colbert is the same story. He used to be funny, a little, back when satire meant making fun of both sides. He did it pretty well on Comedy Central. Now he just reads DNC press releases with a laugh track. And when his ratings drop, suddenly he's under attack. Kimmel's under attack. No, guys, you're just out of touch. America did not cancel you. It has moved on. And then there's The View. Oh, The View. The Mount Rushmore of intellectual bankruptcy. Every time those women open their cackling mouths, you can actually feel IQ points evaporating through the screen. These are the same people who have called half the country all the words: racist, sexist, fascist, homophobic, you name it. But then one of their own says something stupid, and suddenly we're supposed to show them grace. Check this out. Just last week, Whoopi Goldberg, yes, Whoopi, suggested that people going to the Super Bowl should get a tan and become brown so they could confuse ICE agents. This all started because of that Bad Bunny guy and being from Puerto Rico. I don't know how having him do the halftime show, which I think is ridiculous anyway, but how did that spur this? I don't know. But I do want to get this straight. All of a sudden, brownface is okay. The same people who destroyed careers over cultural appropriation are now suggesting that people fake their ethnicity to dodge law enforcement. It's not a costume for Halloween. You're literally saying you encouraging people to break the law. That's not just dumb. That's Olympic level hypocrisy. And the audience, again, like Kimmel, maybe 25 menopausal women cheered to that. Although I could sense a little bit of hesitation, even with them. They were like, I don't know, this brown face thing. Because when the left does that, it's satire. When anyone else does it, it's insensitive and offensive. These people have lived so long in their moral bubble that they genuinely can't process being held to their own standards. They scream about accountability right up until they're the ones being held accountable. Then suddenly it's censorship. It's cancel culture. It's the right trying to silence us. Trump this, Trump that. Oh my gosh. No, it's not cancel culture. Perhaps it's karma. And it's long overdue. Cancel culture wasn't supposed to be a boomerang, but it is. They threw it for years and now it's coming back around. The comedians, the journalists, the self-appointed moral referees, all getting a taste of their own fucking medicine. Suddenly, they're begging for mercy. The difference is no one is trying to erase them. No one's showing up to their homes or threatening their families. They're just losing ratings, losing influence, and losing relevance. That is not cancellation, that is consequence. Employers disciplining their employees isn't cancel culture, it's called free enterprise. If you cheer a human being assassinated online and your boss fires you, that's not censorship, that's cause and effect. If you go on a tanking late night show and smear the wrong people after someone's been killed and you get suspended, that's not cancel culture. That is a network trying to salvage what's left of its credibility. Actions have consequences. And for the first time in years, the outrage industry is learning what that actually means. So all that being said, let's take a stroll. Let's take a stroll through the Cancel Hall of Fame, a museum of moments so ridiculous that they'd be comedy if they weren't real. We'll start with the kid who loved the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to talk about him. It still pisses me off. A young 9-year-old boy showed up to a Chiefs game in Las Vegas to play the Raiders on the road. Kudos to him for having the balls to do that. He got decked out in red and black face paint, and he wore a Native American headdress. He was he was noticed so much, he took pictures with the Raiders cheerleaders and was shown on the Jumbotron on and off throughout the game. A young boy, a young Chiefs fan's dream. And then comes this prick journalist on X from a rag publication called Deadspin, instantly calling him racist, and he blasts the photo to millions, claiming that this kid found a way to hate both black people and Native Americans at the same time. Yeah, I'm sure the 9-year-old boy woke up and said, gee, how can I fucking hate everyone at the same time today? He was 9. Just, the picture though was actually taken only from one side, which was blackface. The other half was red because, I don't know, that's the Kansas City Chiefs colors. The kid was just supporting his favorite football team. The internet turned him into a villain. That wasn't social justice at all. It was bullying dressed up as activism. Oh, his family sued Deadspin, by the way, and Deadspin kept doubling down on their stance. It was disgusting. I have no idea why. The lawsuit is still pending, but Deadspin tried to have it thrown out. A judge said, I don't think so. And good. Fuck you, Deadspin. Next up, Chris Pratt, Hollywood's problematic nice guy. This guy does nothing wrong. He lives his life. He entertains, and he's a good actor. What did he do? He didn't go to a Biden fundraiser. That's it. He didn't attend a political event. He didn't tweet anything controversial. He just stayed home. The mob labeled him this right-wing extremist, homophobic, bigoted, all the words, because he didn't perform the ritual of public alignment. In a sane world, skipping a fundraiser means you had plans. In 2021, it meant you were one step away from a hate crime. Then there's J.K. Rowling. You can't even say cancel culture without her name popping up. The woman who created Harry Potter, arguably not one of, I would say the biggest literary franchise in modern history, erased from her own legacy for stating a basic biological fact, that men and women exist as men and women. Suddenly she's Voldemort. Her books were pulled from some libraries. Actors from her films disowned her, although they would be nowhere in life without her. Fan sites pretended she never existed. Meanwhile, the same people wearing "science is real" pens, they couldn't define a woman to save their lives. And remember Roseanne Barr, gone in a day. She had one bad tweet, a tasteless joke, taken out of context, career over. From a show called Roseanne. Roseanne was no more. Disney didn't hesitate. Fired immediately, pulled the show, scrubbed her existence. Meanwhile, other comedians made racist comments, even used blackface, like we talked about, and they got a re-education, a few months off, then back on the air. So no, it was never about morality. It was about politics. Who could they sacrifice to feed the outrage machine? You want more? Let's try this one. A Taco Bell manager in Ohio liked a conservative Facebook post. Liked it. Didn't share it. Didn't comment, which they should have been able to do anyway. They just clicked like. Fired for creating an unsafe work environment. Unsafe. It's a Taco Bell. It's not a therapy session. And if it wasn't safe, it's only because of the possible reactions from the liberal loons who work there. Or how about when cops danced in uniform at pride parades? They were celebrated as brave allies. But the ones who showed up at church picnics, labeled fascists. The hypocrisy wasn't even subtle. It's just their brand. There was a Jeopardy contestant canceled because he held up 3 fingers when he won. Twitter decided that meant a white power gesture. You can't make it up. Hell, one teacher was fired because students found out, they found an old Halloween photo of her dressed as Cleopatra. Cleopatra, not blackface, not offensive. Cleopatra, the historical Egyptian queen. But the mob decided that was cultural appropriation. You'd think at some point someone over there would say, you know what? Wait, I think we are being crazy ones. Nope. They just continued to double down. The cultural appropriation thing is so fucking stupid, especially when people want to celebrate someone or something. Honor them. Some little white girl wants to be Moana for Halloween? No fucking way. That's appropriation. Screw that 6-year-old little girl. Let me ask you, can a little black girl be Cinderella? Would she be chastised the same way? That's what I thought. Cancel culture turned into a religion, and repentance was never enough. You could apologize, donate, disappear, and it wouldn't matter. The apology wasn't the goal. The destruction was. And that's how you know it was never about justice. Because when actual wrongdoings happen, real crimes, real corruption, these same people go silent. Someone posts a meme that hurts some feelings, suddenly they're Martin Luther King with a ring light. Cancel culture was a moral panic disguised as progress for the country. It made everyone terrified to speak, terrified to joke, terrified to be human. But the best part, it's collapsing under its own stupidity. People got tired of pretending. They realized that living in fear of the mob wasn't virtuous, it was pathetic. The louder the cancel mob screamed, the more the rest of America tuned them out. And now they're losing the one thing that they worship the most: attention. At some point, America collectively exhaled and said, enough. You could feel it. People were tired of whispering, tired of fake outrage, tired of watching normal human behavior turned into moral crimes. The fear just burned out. Because cancel culture ran out of villains. That's the problem. It started eating its own. You can only live in outrage mode for so long before it becomes exhausting. Every day was a new emergency, a new boycott, a new statement to be made. Nobody could keep up. It wasn't courage anymore. It was theater. And when the script stopped selling tickets, the audience walked the fuck out. That's where we are now. The crash after the high. Cancel culture fatigue. The mob screamed so loud for so long that people stopped caring. The hashtags don't trend, the threats don't sting, and the mob's favorite weapon, public shame, just doesn't work anymore. Because you can't shame people who've decided that your opinion doesn't matter. That's why comedians are getting bold again. That's why podcasts are booming. That's why the average person is saying what they actually think again, not what gets claps from a mob that hasn't paid rent since 2020. The irony is that the left can't handle it. They spent years cheering cancellations like blood sport. Now that they're losing jobs, viewers, and trust, suddenly it's unfair. They're crying censorship when it's not. They're crying fascism, which it isn't, and crying that their words are being twisted. They aren't. Your words aren't being twisted. They're just finally being judged by the same standard that you set for everyone else. You cannot destroy livelihoods for jokes and then demand immunity for propaganda. You can't call for people to be banned for speech you disagree with and then hide behind free expression when the pendulum swings back. That is not justice. That's hypocrisy exposed in 4K. Let's make something crystal clear. Actual accountability is fine. It always has been. If you lie, slander, or encourage violence, you should face consequences. That isn't cancel culture. That's basic adulthood. If you cheer a man's assassination online and lose your job, that's not censorship. That's your employer protecting its reputation. If you go on live TV and spread garbage about people while your show bleeds viewers and the network suspends you, it's not being silenced. That's capitalism doing quality control. Cancel culture was about destruction. Consequence culture is about correction. The difference is intent. One wants the chaos and other wants standards. And that's why the outrage industry is collapsing. Because at the end of the day, people want authenticity again. They want humor without fear, disagreement without exile, and conversation without character assassination. Play on words. The mob had its moment. It cashed its clicks, it burned its targets, and now it's fading into exactly what it always was. Noise. So here's where I'll leave it. Cancel culture was never about protecting anyone. It was about controlling everyone. It tried to turn free speech into a privilege and moral superiority into a career path. It failed. Thank God. Because you can't cancel common sense forever. The country woke up, rolled its eyes, and moved on. The outrage machine broke down. And all that's left are the people who mistook silence for victory. Cancel culture was the real threat to the First Amendment. Not jokes, not memes, not offensive opinions. What we're seeing now isn't retribution, which is what I've heard it being called. It's restoration. The scales are evening out. The era of fake accountability is ending. The mob is out of breath. And maybe, just maybe, we can go back to living in a world where disagreement isn't a death sentence. Because the only thing truly canceled was their credibility. And they're crying. And people like me and all of you who are listening and who are like-minded, we're just expediting the process. So join me. Stay aware. Stay unafraid. And stay unapologetic. Stay in the fray. Love you guys.
All you gotta do is just listen up.